Hi, I'm Stephen Harris, the horse racing editor at Betting Expert, and here we're going to take a look at 10 punting pointers to hopefully make your National Hunt season betting a profitable one. Now, the jump season has been slow to start this year. We've had a lot of dry and warm weather, and the ground has stayed much faster than the tracks and trainers would like. But now, finally, the rain has arrived. Things are starting to get a bit more competitive, and the big yards are bringing out some of their best horses. So hopefully these 10 suggestions will mean you can make your betting this season profitable. The first point, number one, follow the up-and-coming yards and avoid the priced-in top-name stables. Now, the top yards like Nicky Henderson, Paul Nicholls have got nearly sort of 200-odd horses now as the winter season kicks into gear. And the market very rarely misses these kinds of runners. Obviously, they've got huge numbers of staff and big contacts, big punters who play in the yards. There's not many secrets to be had. It's far better as a punter to try and latch onto a yard that isn't perhaps so much in the public domain. So stables like Rebecca Menzies, Sam England, David Jeffries, Phil Kirby in the north, all very capable, all with really good strike rates and a nice team of young horses. Perhaps concentrate on their runners rather than the Nicholls hot pot or the Henderson hyped up novice. That's where the value can lie in your betting. The second point, watch the racing religiously, watch the replays, make notes, put horses in your irishracing.com tracker. The best bit of advice I was given as a punter in my early days was to keep your eyes open and your ears shut, which basically means use your own judgment, watch the racing as much as you can, make notes, form your own opinions. There's simply no substitute for the hard grind of watching the replays over and over again. You see so many things, and these days, the people who are supplying the comments for like organisations such as Timeform or the Racing Post, it's not done in a particularly professional way. A lot of things are missed, so you can often spot something or a bias on the track that isn't in the public domain, and that's the sort of thing can make your betting profitable. Point 3, and perhaps one of the most important points, is only to bet when the price is right. Basically, the price in betting is absolutely everything. Any punter in the world can fancy a winner or stay loyal to a certain horse that they've got an affection for, because it might be grey or your cat's got the same name as the horse. But the whole key to betting is to find price disparity between what you think is the true chance of the horse winning and the actual price that you can get. And often there's big differences if you've got a good enough opinion and find bigger prices. And the way to approach it is probably to try, if you can, to price up the races before you look at the exchanges in the morning. Try and bet to 100% to get their exact chance of winning that particular race. You'll be amazed how much difference there is. Generally speaking, what it'll mean is you'll end up backing horses at bigger prices rather than those that are very well found at the front of the market. And these days, in such a sort of exchange-driven age, it's much better to try and look away from the obvious, away from the well-backed favourites that have shortened right up by the time the race gets underway. Point 4, latch onto young claiming jockeys early. Rather like the top trainers, the mounts of the very best jockeys always attract a huge following, and this can compress the price artificially. The days of sort of Tony McCoy and Ruby Walsh may be long gone, but there's still always a big market for jockeys like Brian Hughes or Harry Skelton these days, regardless perhaps at times of the form claims in the book of the horses they're actually riding. Try and, when you're watching the racing, make a note of all the young claiming jockeys, the apprentices who are just starting out, who you think they look like they've got talent and potential to go a long way. I remember many years ago, probably 10 years ago now, going to point in the south, and there was a pony race beforehand, and the Bowen brothers, James and Sean, were both riding in the race before the point took place. And basically, one of the brothers looked like a young Leicester Piggott. It was perfectly balanced, and sure enough, sort of 5 years later, they were claiming £7, which they soon got rid of. But if you can latch onto these jockeys early on, it can help you sort of pinpoint value. One jockey I really would follow now is Jack Tudor, who's starting to make a name for himself. He's had a couple of rides for Henderson. He's tied to the Christian Williams yard. He's very much like John Frankham in his early days, perfectly balanced and sees a stride over a fence. He's very much a jockey to follow. Point 5. Keep on track of stable form. I think personally that one of the most important factors in betting, aside of the ground and all the rest of it, is the form of the stables, particularly in the early days of the jump season when horses are having their runs first time out off breaks. Some yards are absolutely flying. At the moment, for instance, Nicky Richards in the north has got a fantastic strike rate. Ben Pauling's really picking up. Joe Tizard. These are hot yards at the moment, but of course in a few months' time that might have changed. So it's very important to look at the last sort of fortnight or so, see how many runners trainers having. Sometimes it can be significant that trainers are not having runners, that there might be something, a bug in the yard or something ailing them, or they're behind. So for instance, Venetia Williams at the moment always misses the summer, barely ever has a runner, but she's been very slow to get going. The horses haven't been able to get on the gallops. Plenty that might well need a run in the next few weeks. Point 6, check the weather and ground conditions every morning. This is very important. Real-time information's never been more freely available, with things like Twitter being a really great aid for the punter's armoury. In particular, the weather and going updates from the track is a real positive in assessing the likely conditions on the day and any dramatic changes. Obviously, you can do all your form study in the morning when it's good ground, but by the afternoon it's poured with rain at sort of 12 o'clock. Certain tracks change completely if the going changes. I mean, somewhere like Cheltenham that we all know about, there can often be a huge bias out wide there when the rain gets in, particularly on the hurdles course. And certain jockeys like Paddy Brennan are absolutely brilliant at knowing that. But if you know first that the ground's about to change, you can get a lot of value in the markets that are all priced up under different ground conditions. Point 7, know the tracks and their different characteristics. National hunt tracks in the UK are all completely unique, with characteristics that suit certain horses' run styles and not others, especially when the ground turns soft and the emphasis is really on stamina. I mean, for example, form from stiff tracks like Hexham, for example, will have little bearing, if any, on what is likely to happen, say, at somewhere like Market Raisin, where speed is usually of the essence and they race mainly in the summer months. Even top tracks like Cheltenham and Newbury place totally different demands on horses, with the undulations and stiff fences at Prestbury Park often producing real course specialists who reserve their best form for that track. Whereas Newbury, which is a bit like Foss Lass in a way, is a proper flat, galloping left-handed track where relentless grinding sound jumpers are often seen to maximum effect. Some tracks are similar and form can cross over from both, as I say, like Foss Lass and Newbury, maybe somewhere like Market Raisin and Taunton, quite similar, sharp emphasis on speed. And understanding how form translates is quite a big edge in a punter's armoury. Point 8, race tactics are crucial. Ask yourself as a punter, how is this race going to be run? Working out how a race will be run is another massive weapon. Will there be a fast pace? Who's going to lead? Will the front runners duel and set things up for a hold-up ride? Is there part of the track where the ground is better? Which jockeys are aware of this bias? Again, particularly at places like Cheltenham, where wide's often better. Playing hold-up horses each way in races where there are 3 or 4 confirmed front runners is a very profitable edge that can still be exploited. And particularly on a Saturday when you get your 16, 17, 18 runner handicaps, playing each way, a quarter the odds, 1, 2, 3, 4. The place terms are very much in the punter's favour. Perhaps even get yourself a package of 3 or 4 hold-up horses in a race where the pace is going to be strong up front. Backing them all each way, while that might sound wrong, you're actually mathematically and with the way the race is going to be run, putting yourself in a very strong position. 9. Look for angles and edges that the market may miss. The betting market these days is very much a different place to even 10 years ago, constantly revolving, with exchanges completely dominant, both in terms of where the betting action takes place, but also in terms of setting the prices, the markets themselves, that all bookmakers on and off course follow religiously. And particularly in the recent times, like the last 5 years, the turnover on the exchanges has collapsed. So these are very weak, illiquid markets that can change dramatically. And it's undoubtedly led to some wildly inaccurate prices being available in the early markets, with around 20 or more established bookmakers all pricing up every race every day from a few £100, if even that now, on the betting exchanges. So if you can form your own opinion, price things up yourself to 100%, you'll often find huge differences in the early prices between what's offered by the bookmakers and what the actual reality will be later on. And finally, probably the most important thing as a punter, number 10, keep a cool head, don't chase your losses. one of the reasons that some of the best judges of form are not winning punters is that when things go wrong, they chase their losses, lose their heads, lose control. So it's vitally important to sort of stay in second gear, always betting within your means, and take a long run view of all your betting. Keep a separate betting bank away from everyday expenses and treat your punting as a business.